We're going to be going over some new gameplay information about The Last of Us Part 2 today that I think you guys are going to find very interesting and also very informative. The first thing we're going to be going over has to do with the new upgrade system that is going to be implemented within this game, and we all know how important the upgrade system was in the first game, how big of a role it played when it comes to the overall gameplay experience, and this time around it sounds like Naughty Dog is making some major improvements so that you will actually be able to really change up your playstyle. Not so much to the point where it doesn't feel like The Last of Us anymore, but to the point where you're going to be able to really put emphasis on the way you want to play the game, which sounds really awesome to me. And on top of that, they also talked a little bit about the AI companions that you're going to have when playing The Last of Us Part 2 and how they're going to be much more capable and much more efficient this time around, which sounds awesome to me. But starting here with the upgrade system, says that one of several gameplay additions coming to The Last of Us Part 2 is a new upgrade system. We recently got our hands on the game at a preview event, and it seems upgrades are more than just a way to make Ellie stronger. They will drastically change the way you play. GameSpot editor Phil Hornshaw spent time with the game and also spoke to co-director Anthony Newman about the feature. When Phil inquired about the upgrade system, Newman said, "There was so much we really wanted to explore in terms of player strategy. We really wanted to try and double down on allowing players to express themselves strategically and find their own way to play the game. And so something I'm really thrilled about is the new player upgrade system, where rather than having upgrades that are just minor stat boosts to different things, we really wanted to have upgrades that potentially unlocked entirely new abilities or just had drastic effects on the way you played the game. It seems that several new gameplay mechanics will stack as you improve Ellie's capabilities. Newman gave an example saying one totally new ability you can get is holding your breath while aiming to steady your aim. It doesn't come by default, but you can learn it over time. These can overlap with other systems, and Newman continued, there are entire crafting recipes, like the silencer for the pistol, that you can only learn via the player upgrade system, or some really extreme upgrades where you can craft two of an item for the same resources. You can craft 2 trap mines or 2 smoke bombs from the same resources. By the sounds of it, different players may end up with different gameplay experiences in The Last of Us Part 2, but aren't beholden to a specific build per se. As Newman concluded, you can find these synergies between playstyle, a set of weapon upgrades that you can get at the workbench, a set of player upgrades that all create this confluence of a unique version of the game for yourself. So this actually sounds really interesting to me because, again, talking about just how important the upgrade system was to the first game, it did make a big impact on how you, I don't want to say how you played the game, but the overall experience, to whereas this time around it really sounds like they're putting emphasis on making sure that the upgrade system is significant enough that it will actually change up how you choose to play the game. We know that there's going to be different elements within The Last of Us Part 2. You know, there's going to be obviously a lot of action, but there's also going to be a lot of stealth, and that is the one area that a lot of people have been, at least based off of what I've been reading, are hoping to see a major improvement in, is the stealth area, where it's actually more viable, especially in the harder difficulties. And it sounds like, hopefully, if this upgrade system is done right, there will basically be a path you can take to make it so that Ellie is much more capable when it comes to stealth. And if that's your preferred way to play the game, and you're not trying to make it so that every single encounter is over-the-top action, you'll be able to make that a reality. Now, they don't say that explicitly here, but if there's one thing we can say for sure, is that they have made some major improvements here. And to me, I'm actually really looking forward to this. It seems like it's almost leaning ever so slightly into like RPG mechanic territory, where you have to really think about what upgrades you want to have. I'm sure that as you continue playing and as you get closer towards the end of the game, you will most likely have almost all of the abilities unlocked or fully upgraded. And even if you don't, going into New Game Plus, that's something you'll be able to fully flesh out. And so it's going to be really interesting for me to see just how varied your playstyle can become when playing as Ellie. I do like stealth, and I do prefer stealth, so if there is that stealth branch, I guess, where you can kind of just continually upgrade it and not focus too much on the combat side of things. But we do have to understand that, there are going to be a lot of moments in this game where stealth probably, I don't want to say it won't be an option, but realistically it's just going to be too difficult to get through everything you need to get through without, really getting into some heavy combat. So either way, I'm very excited about this news. The upgrade system, again, it's going to play a really vital role within this game, and so I think it's good that Naughty Dog is really taking care of it and ensuring that this time around, it's not, like they said, it's not just going to be some minor stat boosts here and there. It's not just going to be about just increasing your health or anything like that. There's actually going to be things that you upgrade that make a big difference in the actual way you play the game, and that sounds really awesome to me. But moving on from that, we are going to now focus on the upgrades that have been made to the companion system and how they're going to be much more helpful this time around, which I think is something we can all get behind. If you played the first game, there were certainly those moments where, we do have to keep in mind it was a last generation game, so it kind of gets a pass on this, but there were those moments where the AI just seemed like it wasn't there, it wasn't really that intelligent, and it wasn't really as helpful as it could have been or should have been, especially in the more difficult segments of the game, where when you're playing it on a higher difficulty, at least based off of what I've heard from people who have played it. So it says, when looking at the recent trailer for The Last of Us Part 2, it's clear that Ellie is in for a tough fight against the new threat coming from the wolves. Add clickers on top of that, there's certainly a lot for her to deal with. But she won't always be alone in her struggle, as just like the original game, Ellie will encounter a variety of characters who will join her on her journey. Unique characters are part of what made The Last of Us such a stellar experience from a storytelling perspective. However, it was a common occurrence during combat situations that companion characters weren't as helpful as they could have been. In The Last of Us Part 2, the developers at Naughty Dog wanted to address this concern from the original. Speaking with The Last of Us Part 2 co-director Anthony Newman, he explained why allies would have a more significant impact during combat in the sequel. I can't get too much into the exact ratio of time you spend alone. I'd say the game is definitely a blend of being by yourself, as you were in the second part of the demo, and being with an ally, he said. Allies are at the core of Naughty Dog games. We get a lot of great stuff out of them in terms of this back and forth, as you were pointing out. I think, as you may have noticed in the first part of the demo, interacting with Dina, our allies can do a lot of pretty exciting new stuff where they can get stealth kills independently. They have their own pretty nuanced melee system where they can interact with enemies in melee and also help out and rescue as they did in the first game. They're a little bit more flexible and nuanced this time around. So, to me, this actually sounds like a really, really good thing because as somebody who is playing through The Last of Us once again, I do notice that, as time goes on, and again, keeping in mind that The Last of Us 1 was a last generation game, you can certainly notice the flaws within the AI, and especially with the companions. And I don't think any of us want it to be to a point where the companions are like overpowered or they're doing all the heavy lifting for us, because that would just take away the fun aspect of the game. But I have a feeling that everything regarding The Last of Us Part 2 is going to be elevated, including just how immersive you end up, or how immersed you end up getting in these segments with companions, because something that I think really did a good job at taking you out of the experience occasionally when playing The Last of Us is those moments when you're going up against clickers, like in the subway section of The Last of Us 1, and you're trying to be as quiet as you can. You got to be really careful about every little move you make, every little sound you make, and then you just see your AI companions literally just like running around left and right, like walking right by clickers, and because that's just how they're programmed, the clickers aren't going to notice them, and it just kind of takes you out of the experience in those scenarios and those situations. And so for me personally, what I'm going to be looking for when it comes to the AI companions and going through different sections is if it's going to seem realistic to me, right? Like if they're going to behave in a realistic manner. It is really great to know that in certain situations they will be able to save you. They'll be able to take out enemies on their own with their own stealth abilities, and they'll be able to melee and hopefully take care of themselves. But for me, that's really going to be, I think, the biggest thing I'm looking for is when I'm in these tense situations. We do have to understand that this is the one area where Naughty Dog has really emphasized with The Last of Us Part 2 that they want the tension to be through the roof. They want the tension to be consistent in a way that you're not feeling like the tension's just instantly being removed or being taken away, or like your bubbles just instantly being burst. And so for me, the biggest area of that is going to be when I'm in these moments with clickers and I have to be quiet and the tension is, sky high. Am I going to be immediately taken out of that because my AI companion is just running around, making all this noise while I'm sitting over here trying not to, practically breathe, because that just really takes you out of the experience in general. So I think this is some really good news. I think it's to be expected, but it is nice to hear Naughty Dog really talking about all of these upgrades to the actual gameplay, because we've talked about the story. We all know that we're going to be in for something awesome when it comes to the story telling that we're going to experience within The Last of Us Part 2, but the gameplay, hopefully there's going to be some major improvements, and from the sounds of it, there is going to be. And so I'm very excited to see what this new upgrade system is going to be like within this game, and I'm very excited to see just how much more capable the companion system is going to be when we play through those segments where we have a companion in The Last of Us Part 2. But that's going to do it for the video, guys. Be sure to leave your thoughts about this down in the comments below. What do you think about the new upgrade system, and what do you think about the new AI companion system? Be sure to leave the video a like if you did enjoy it or you found it informative or helpful. Really lets me know you guys are enjoying the content. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.